In 1968, something unthinkable occurred beneath the seas. 4 submarines from 4 nations vanished within merely 4 months. No distress calls, no survivors, no explanations, nothing. These were not ancient deteriorating relics, they were state-of-the-art vessels operated by seasoned crews. Yet they disappeared without a clue, leaving behind queries and proof even more perplexing than the vanishings themselves. Was it happenstance, or is there something far more disquieting beneath the surface? By this presentation's conclusion, you will learn about the startling evidence that was discovered and the alarming questions it bequeathed, questions we still cannot answer. Let us begin. We shall commence with the INS Dakar. Originally a British T-class submarine from World War II, the Dakar had been modernized and enhanced by the 1960s, becoming a state-of-the-art vessel. Israel had purchased and meticulously refurbished her, entrusting her to a seasoned crew of 69. On January 9, 1968, the Dakar set sail from Portsmouth, England, destined for Haifa, Israel. It was supposed to be a straightforward journey, less than 3 weeks at sea. For most of the voyage, everything was fine. The Dakar routinely checked in, transmitting updates concerning her position. Yet on January 24th, as she neared the eastern Mediterranean, something transpired. The submarine sent a routine transmission that evening, reporting nothing unusual. But after that, silence. No distress call, no emergency signal. By January 25th, the Dakar was officially missing. The ensuing search for the Dakar was massive. Israel initiated one of the largest naval search and rescue operations in its history, joined by the United States Navy and others. Ships, aircraft, and advanced sonar scoured the Mediterranean for weeks. But it was as if the Dakar had been swallowed whole by the sea. It was not until 1999, over 30 years later, that her wreck was discovered lying nearly 3,000 meters beneath the surface between Cyprus and Crete. The submarine's hull was fractured in 2, but the cause of the disaster remained unknown. Some believe it was a catastrophic mechanical failure, others suspect a collision or even sabotage. The truth, it remains an Israeli mystery. And then, merely 2 days after the INS Dakar vanished, another submarine met the same fate. This time it was the French submarine Minerve. The Minerve was a diesel-electric submarine, modern and maneuverable, commissioned in 1964 and considered a reliable vessel. On January 27, 1968, she was conducting a routine training exercise just a few miles off the coast of Toulon, France. The weather that morning was rough, high winds and turbulent waves, but not unusual for the Mediterranean. At 7:55 a.m., Minerve transmitted her final communication, reporting her position and estimated arrival time. Everything seemed normal, but minutes later, silence. She failed to arrive at port, and there were no distress calls, no emergency signals. The French Navy immediately launched a search. The effort was enormous. Ships and planes scoured the waters near Toulon. Jacques Cousteau himself joined the operation, employing his team's advanced equipment to scan the seabed. But despite their efforts, not a single trace of the Minerve was discovered for over 50 years. Her fate remained one of the Mediterranean's greatest mysteries. It was not until 2019, thanks to advanced sonar technology, that her wreckage was finally located approximately 45 kilometers south of Toulon, lying over 2,300 meters beneath the surface. The discovery brought long-awaited closure, but it also raised questions. The wreck displayed indications of a sudden and catastrophic event, likely caused by mechanical failure or turbulence from the stormy conditions. Without a full investigation of the wreck, the exact cause remains speculative. What rendered the Minerve's disappearance especially haunting was how close it was to home. Unlike the Dakar lost in the open Mediterranean, Minerve vanished within sight of her own port, mere miles from safety. 52 sailors were gone in an instant, just 2 days after the Dakar. The Mediterranean, often calm and predictable, had suddenly become the stage for two of the Cold War's most chilling mysteries. 2 submarines are gone in less than a week. The Mediterranean, usually so tranquil, was now home to 2 of the Cold War's greatest mysteries. But it was not solely the Mediterranean. Far from the Mediterranean, within the vast frigid expanse of the Pacific Ocean, another submarine was about to vanish. This time it was the Soviet submarine K-129. The K-129 was a Gulf II-class ballistic missile submarine, a formidable weapon of the Cold War. She was nuclear-armed and carried 3 ballistic missiles capable of devastating any target within range. On February 24, 1968, she departed her submarine base in the far eastern Soviet Union for a routine patrol. The mission, like so much during this era, was shrouded in secrecy. For weeks, the K-129 sailed undetected beneath the surface, a phantom moving through the Pacific. But sometime in early March, everything altered. She failed to report back. Initially, Soviet officials thought it was a communications error, common enough for submarines operating deep underwater. But as the days passed, concern transformed into alarm. A massive search effort was launched. Over 40 ships and dozens of aircraft scoured the Pacific, covering thousands of miles of open water. Yet despite their efforts, there was no sign of the K-129. The Soviets were baffled. A submarine of that size and capability did not simply disappear unless something catastrophic had happened. Unbeknownst to the Soviets, the United States Navy had detected something utilizing their secretive SOSUS network, an underwater listening system designed to track Soviet submarines. They had recorded an acoustic anomaly northwest of Hawaii. It sounded like an explosion, deep and far-reaching, recorded on March 8, 1968. With this data, the United States Navy located the K-129's wreckage at a depth of nearly 5,000 meters. The submarine's hull was shattered, its structure torn apart by immense pressure. For the Americans, it was a critical discovery. For the Soviets, it was another dead end. But the narrative did not conclude there. In 1974, 6 years after the mysterious sinking of the K-129, the Central Intelligence Agency launched a covert operation of unprecedented scale, codenamed Project Azorian. The mission? To recover the wreckage of the submarine from its resting place nearly 3 miles beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean, a feat never before attempted. This was not merely any recovery mission. It was one of the most audacious and expensive deep-sea salvage operations in history. The CIA reportedly expended over $800 million, equivalent to billions today, to design and construct the Glomar Explorer, a massive ship specifically engineered for the task. Officially, the ship was said to be part of a deep-sea mining project, a cover story so elaborate it deceived almost everyone, including international observers. Why would they proceed to such lengths? Because the K-129 was not just any sunken submarine. It carried nuclear warheads, encrypted communications equipment, and potentially valuable intelligence regarding Soviet military technology. The Americans hoped that recovering even fragments of the submarine could provide insights into the USSR's nuclear capabilities and strategic plans, knowledge that could tip the scales in the Cold War. The secrecy surrounding Project Azorian was so intense that it remained classified for decades. Even now, much of what the CIA uncovered from the mission is still shrouded in mystery, fueling speculation about what they truly discovered on the ocean floor. The operation was only partially successful. Employing a massive claw-like device known as the capture vehicle, the Glomar Explorer managed to raise a section of the K-129's wreckage, an unprecedented feat of engineering. Among the recovered pieces were torpedoes, parts of the control room, and the remains of several Soviet sailors, who were reportedly accorded a burial at sea with military honors. Yet beyond these details, what the CIA truly discovered remains classified, and questions swirl about what secrets might have been retrieved from the depths. Was it the nuclear warheads, the encrypted communications equipment, or perhaps something far, far more shocking? Official accounts remain vague, and speculation about the CIA's motives and findings only deepens the mystery. As for why the K-129 sank, the theories are as baffling as the submarine's disappearance itself. Some indicate mechanical failure, perhaps an accidental missile detonation or a catastrophic structural flaw. Others suggest a collision with the USS Swordfish, hinting at a Cold War confrontation that both sides agreed to keep buried. And then there is the Soviet theory of sabotage, a rogue crew member attempting to defect with nuclear weapons, precipitating disaster. But here is where the story becomes even stranger. The loss of the K-129 was not an isolated incident. Just weeks earlier, the INS Dakar and the Minerve had vanished under equally mysterious circumstances. 3 advanced submarines from 3 different nations, gone without warning. Could some unknown force, have been responsible for all 3? Whatever secrets the K-129 held, they remain locked in the wreckage that still lies at the bottom of the Pacific, silent and untouched, as impenetrable as the mysteries surrounding the other vanished submarines of 1968. Finally, we arrived at the USS Scorpion. Of all the disappearances in 1968, the Scorpion's is the most well-documented and perhaps the most haunting. The Scorpion was a skipjack-class nuclear-powered submarine, one of the most advanced vessels in the United States Navy. Sleek, fast, and deadly, she was constructed for one purpose: to hunt and destroy enemy submarines during a time when tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union teetered on the brink of war. Every mission carried the weight of the Cold War, and the Scorpion's deployment was no different. In May of 1968, the Scorpion was returning to her home base in Norfolk, Virginia after a month-long deployment in the Mediterranean. She had spent that time shadowing Soviet naval activity, gathering intelligence, and conducting routine operations that were anything but routine within the high-stakes theater of the Cold War. On May 21st, the Scorpion transmitted what would become her final message. The crew reported their position and provided their estimated time of arrival in Norfolk. Everything seemed fine. The submarine was operating as expected, and her return was imminent. But 5 days later, on May 26th, the Scorpion failed to arrive. No messages, no emergency signals, nothing. The United States Navy immediately launched an urgent search operation. Ships and aircraft scoured the vast Atlantic, deploying sonar buoys and scanning every inch of the Scorpion's documented route. The submarine had last reported its position on May 21st, and search teams narrowed their focus to the open waters southwest of the Azores. But the ocean is unimaginably vast, and locating even a trace of a submarine at such depths was a near impossible task. As days turned into weeks, the hope of finding the Scorpion intact began to fade. For the families of the 99 crew members, the waiting was agonizing, every passing day a reminder of how little was known. Finally, after weeks of relentless searching, sonar detected an anomaly deep beneath the waves. The wreck of the Scorpion was discovered 400 miles southwest of the Azores, resting over 3,000 meters below the surface. The submarine was in 2 large pieces. Her hull was twisted and broken, with the stern section almost completely crushed, evidence of the immense pressure at those depths. Debris from the interior was scattered across the seabed, suggesting a catastrophic and sudden event. For the Navy, discovering the Scorpion provided answers, but not the ones they had hoped for. Instead of uncovering the cause of the sinking, the condition of the wreck raised more questions than it answered. The official investigation concluded that the Scorpion was likely lost due to an internal torpedo explosion. According to this theory, one of her own torpedoes malfunctioned, detonating inside the submarine and initiating a chain reaction that tore through the vessel in seconds. While plausible, this explanation left room for doubt. How could such a catastrophic malfunction occur aboard one of the Navy's most advanced submarines? Other theories swiftly emerged. Declassified United States Navy documents revealed that, just months before the Scorpion's disappearance, American intelligence intercepted Soviet communications indicating they were actively targeting an American submarine. Some believe the Scorpion may have been caught in a deadly game of underwater cat and mouse with a Soviet sub. Could she have been intercepted and attacked during a covert skirmish? If so, both nations would have had every reason to keep such a confrontation secret, fearing it could escalate Cold War tensions into open conflict. Then there was the question of the Scorpion's long history of technical problems. The submarine had experienced mechanical issues in her propulsion system, her torpedo tubes, and even her electrical wiring during previous deployments. Some believe these chronic failures may have finally caught up to her, leading to her destruction under the immense pressures of the deep ocean. Whatever the cause, 99 sailors aboard the USS Scorpion were lost in an instant. The discovery of her wreck brought some closure, but not answers. For the families, the haunting questions remain. And the Scorpion was not alone. Within just 4 months, 4 submarines from 4 different nations vanished without explanation: the INS Dakar, the Minerve, the K-129, and the USS Scorpion. Each disappearance was different, each surrounded by its own theories and fragments of evidence. But all were swallowed by the same unsettling silence. Was it all merely coincidence, a series of unrelated accidents? Or could something far more ominous have connected them all? What do you believe transpired? Was it Cold War sabotage, deadly accidents, or something beyond anything we comprehend? Let me know your theories within the comments. I shall be reading every one. If you enjoyed this plunge into the unknown, give the video a like, and do not forget to subscribe to Forbidden Fathoms so you do not miss the next story. Until next time, remain inquisitive and remain secure.